Hello students, this is Mrs. Miller, and the purpose of this video is to show you how to put together our Exploring the Titanic piece by piece assignment. The state of Indiana says that we have to be able to analyze events and determine how they all fit together. So the purpose of this assignment is to analyze the factors that led to the sinking of the Titanic and determine how the outcome would be different if the factors were different. The first thing you need to do is gather your materials. You're going to need your scissors, your glue stick, something to write with, and your spiral notebook. You're also going to need the two pictures of the Titanic. It's a really large picture, but it's split into 2 pages. You're going to need both of these pages here. They each have 4 rectangles on them. The first page starts with the first rectangle says the weather. And the second one says the wireless operators on the Titanic. So please make sure you have both of those pages. You also need 2 of the blank pages of rectangles. The next thing that you're going to do is you're going to cut out all 16 rectangles. So the 4 rectangles on this sheet and the 4 rectangles on the other sheet that looks like this, and then all 8 of the blank rectangles, so you will have a total of 16 rectangles that looks like this when you are finished. The next step involves folding the rectangles in half. So you're going to fold all 16 rectangles in half, and then you're going to pair one rectangle that has words with one rectangle that is blank. For step 4, you're going to put a little bit of glue on the inside crease of the foldable that had the words on it. And for step 5, you're going to take that blank rectangle and press it along the inside of the foldable where you put the glue. So you now have what looks like a little booklet. Go ahead and grab one set. You should have 8 sets of foldables. Go ahead and grab one of those sets, and you're going to do some writing. On the inside of the first flap, you're going to write what happened. Then flip it over, and so you're on the second flap in that first set, and you're going to write the result. Flip the page one more time, and you're going to write how the tragedy could have been prevented. Go ahead and repeat this process with all 8 flaps. Now go ahead and grab one set of flaps, and you're going to fill it in. So on the one that says what happened, this is mine for weather. It says what happened, so I'm going to describe what happened with the weather. And this is what I wrote. You may write it as well. It was a very dark, calm night. There wasn't any wind kicking up water around the iceberg, so the lookouts couldn't see it. So now I flip to the next page of that set, and it says the result. And so I wrote, the ship collided with the iceberg. So since the lookouts couldn't see the iceberg because the weather was so calm, the ship collided with the iceberg. So that was the result of what happened because of the weather. Now I'm going to think about how the tragedy could have been avoided. So on the flap that says how the tragedy could have been avoided, again, still thinking about the weather, I wrote, the captain could have stopped the ship for the evening since it was difficult to see anything. So I know that if the captain would have done that, then the ship never would have collided with the iceberg. And that's the point of this assignment. First, we have to identify how each of the factors fit into the overall story. And then we're going to think about how the story would be different if some of those factors had been different. Okay? So you're going to complete this process with all 8 sets. The next step involves the picture. You saw some white trim around the edges of your picture. You're going to trim that white off except for on one side of one of the pictures, like you see I've done right here. You're going to take your glue stick and put some glue right along the edge, and then you're going to glue the pictures together. Now you have one large picture of the Titanic. For this step, you're going to take your filled in flaps. You've already written on the inside of each of your flaps what happened, the result, and how the tragedy could have been avoided. You've done that on all of your flaps already. So now what you're going to do is you're going to glue them to the picture. Now I would like for you to try to put the flaps in a spot that makes sense. For example, the one that says Lifeboats, I put right here by the lifeboats. The lifeboats are back here on the ship, and so that's where I put the flap that says Lifeboats. Some of them it's a little difficult to put an exact spot, but let's go through and talk about them. For the weather, I just put it right up here in the sky. The wireless operators on the Titanic were probably below deck, but I didn't have any room below, so I went ahead and put it there. Here are pictures of lookouts Fleet and Lee, so that's where I put the flap that said Lookouts Fleet and Lee. The rivets that were used that affected the tragedy were in the front or the hull of the ship, so I put those here. The bulkheads were in the bottom of the ship, so I put the one that says bulkheads here. And the wireless operator on the Californian, I put next to the ship of the Californian. Now, the speed of the ship, it could have gone anywhere, and I just put it right here because that's where I had some room left. Now that you have your picture together, we're going to add it to our spiral notebook. So what you're going to do is you're going to fold the picture in half, and I have an X here so you can see that this is the back of my paper. You're going to put some glue on one side and then press it down into your spiral notebook. And you now have an interactive foldable that shows your understanding of how the small pieces of the story fit together to create a larger story.